I am a little late to the party, but I am nevertheless in the party now. Hello and welcome back. This is my 25 books for the year 2025. So I was seeing a lot of this YouTube videos where people, had this set 25 books which was their priority TBR, and they have to read that before the year 2025 ends. So I thought of making one because FOMO and all. But because I have this huge TBR, as you can see, it was a little bit difficult for me to, sort through the books. Nevertheless, why am I saying nevertheless so many times? Anyway, we have finally reached a conclusion. I have finally succeeded in picking a good TBR. I think it's good, and I think I'll be able to finish it by the end of this year. No promises though, because knowing myself, yeah, I'm going to just abandon all of this and mood read my way through 2025. That could happen. So we have to take all the possibilities. Anywho, I categorize these 25 books in like five categories. Number one, fantasy. Number two, romance. Number three, lit fic. Number four, classics. And number five is everything I cannot put into a category. So here we go. First, I'm going to go with romance because I'm a romance reader. Now, when I was curating this list, it was kind of very difficult for me to find a good romance book that I want to uh, be done with in 2025. And then I realized I am buying so much of literary fiction these days that I do not have that many romance in my TBR. How sad is that? Romance is the genre, and fantasy, these two genres are something that got me into reading. So, me not having a romance is a big deal for me. But then I didn't let that knowledge feed to my buying obsession. And yeah, I'm behaving. Anyway, let's get on with my romance list. The first book I have here is The American Roommate Experience by Alina R. Moss. Now, she's the author that, when I was getting back into reading after 5 years, she was the first of those authors that I picked. I read her The Spanish Love Deception, and at that time, I liked it. Not so much, it was a 4 star for me, but then over time, I realized the flaws in the writing, and it kind of went 3.5. But I haven't picked an Armas book since then, and I'm very excited to finish this one. The second book I have is Christina Lauren. This is going to be my first read from this author. The book is Love and Other Words. I have never read her writing. I just got curious, and it was a curiosity buy. That's it. I know nothing about this novel, to be honest. It's not a reading year until I read an Anna Huang book. I'm not a fan of her, stories. I'm a fan of her writing, though. It's like very easy read for me. Let's just say a great palate cleanser. Not a fan of her story because if you get the Anna Huang formula, you will just have to change the tropes and everything will, somehow come into a place and you will have a new story because she never changes the plot of her books, never. But again, she is someone who is my guilty read, guilty read author, if that's a thing. So, yeah, I'm going to read another one of her that is King of Pride. It's the second one in King of series. I read King of Wrath, Marriage of Convenience. I'm a sucker for that. So, even though I have heard that a lot of people did not like anything about the book, I don't care if the trope is marriage of convenience. So, judge me all you want. You have the liberty to judge me on that. I mean, I kind of know it's fucked up. So, the last two are the most hyped and was kind of an easy pick for this video because Jessa Hastings, is that Hastings? I don't know how to pronounce that name, but whatever, Jessa's Magnolia Parks. I have heard so much about this book. Like, if you are on Bookstagram, you cannot go without hearing about this book if you're searching for romance. Everybody say that it's kind of a toxic romance, but they are still in love with the story. So I'm going to read this year and know what the hype is about, or if it's worth that amount of hype or not. Then finally, we have Boys of Tommen, Binding 13. I mean, the sheer volume of this book, being this romance genre and being this big, is making me want to not read it at all. But I'm committed and I'm going to read this because a lot of people have said that this is so worth the hype. And yeah, I don't want to miss out, just like this video that I made. I just get FOMO, guys. Yeah, that's my truth. So yeah, these five are my romance book pick. I hope I can finish it. And yeah, it's apart from Binding 13 and Magnolia Park, I do not believe, or maybe the American Roommate Experience, I do not believe that King of Pride or Love and Other Words should have been on this list. I mean, I was hoping to give you something like, oh, you have not read this yet, sort of book, but I don't have this. So if you have any recommendation for me, please do tell. Please. I'm in dire need of romance recommendation. I know it should have been the other way where I should tell you romance recommendation. I have told you romance recommendations, but like you can go see that video and then you can recommend some books to me if you think I'm missing out. Okay, now an easy one for this video. This is literary fiction. Yep, that is a fitting category for these books. Number one, we are starting very strong with this one because I had the most difficulty picking books in this category. So the number one is The Vegetarian, obviously by Han Kang. And this book won, and the other one, a Nobel in 2024 and a Man Booker in 2016. So yeah, we have to read this. I mean, obviously. I have heard that there are poetic undertones in her writing and that it is very haunting to read. Even though you think that the subject is like very easy, it's still very haunting. So I want to see. I don't want to miss out. Number two is my first Gabo, which is Love in the Time of Cholera. I was debating whether to read 100 Years of Solitude or this one, but then I picked this one because 100 Years of Solitude, I have heard, is a difficult book in terms of Gabo's writing. So, yeah, I'm going to read this one and see what the hype is about. I have read a summary of it when I was like very little, knew nothing of literature, but since then I have heard about Marquez and his writing, and I just always wanted to read it. So I'm going to read it this year. I have this book, but and it was actually just what do you call it? Like random buy because I have heard about this author, but then I didn't know that this book belongs to Napolitan Cartwright, and um I should have read the blurb of it to just know that this book was, I think, the third one in the series. So I'm going to buy the first one and read it because I'm just so mesmerized by this author just because of the fact that her real identity is not known to public. I mean, I've said this before, mysterious people just there's something in them that draws me. So Elena Ferrante is one of those authors, and yeah, I'm no promises about other books, but I'm going to read her writing this one. Yeah, I can promise you that much. So The first book, I believe, in the Napolitan Portrait is My Brilliant Friend, and yes, I'm going to read that one. I have heard great things about this book. This is Kairos by Jenny Erpenbach, and this is International Booker Prize 2024 winner. So I think this is a love story set in. Um, there was something about this. Yes, I think Germany, politics and history. I think there is something to do with East Germany and West Germany, and there is romantic elements in this book, and I have heard that it's um, very good. Even though if you do not read literary fiction, this is the one book that you have to read. I've heard someone say that. So yeah, I'm going to try. Of course, we have Toni Morrison in this category because I started reading her and I enjoyed it, and then I left this book somewhere and then I couldn't find it and then I abandoned it. I have walked you through my entire process, my entire mood reading process. But I was enjoying this book and I want to read this year because you have to read a Toni Morrison. It's like somebody told me that my favorite book is The Color Purple by Alice Walker, and somebody told me that The Bluest Eyes by Toni Morrison comes very close to her writing. So obviously, I'm going to read it. These were my top five literary fiction that I have to read. The next category is classics. You have to include White Nights by Dostoevsky if you have not read it. This book is like one classic that is ruling the bookstagram community right now. So obviously I have to read it. And another reason for reading it is that this is Penguin cloth bound edition, the only edition that I own, and I just want to read it for that purpose. Yeah. I'm going to have one day. I'm going to own the entire Penguin cloth bound edition. Yep, one day. Not when I'm having this book buying ban thing, but yes. And so this is going to be my first classic that I read. Not my first classic, just like the first book in this category. And the second book is obviously followed by Jane Austen. I'm an Austen girl through and through, through and through. So, of course, the next book is going to be Emma from Jane Austen. And I have a feeling that I'm going to love it already. So, yeah, let's see how this one goes because I love Pride and Prejudice. I love Sense and Sensibility. I have an edition of Persuasion. I have read it, but I'm going to reread it probably this year, next year, who knows. But Emma is the one that I have not read, do not know the story of. So I think it's only fair that I give it a try. Now, with this book, I was like, it was between this book, Thomas Hardy's The Mayor of Casterbridge, or um, it was Anna Karenina by Leo Tolstoy. So I just picked this one up because by volume, this is like half of Anna Karenina, and that's why this one got selected. But I'm hoping to read Anna Karenina as well. However, for the sake of this video and for the sake of the title 25 books for 2025, I'm going to pick this one and say that yes, this is going to be in my priority read. Then we have, and I'm so ashamed to say this, I haven't read this one yet. I don't know why, because I have watched the film adaptation of this book. It is Little Women by Louisa May Alcott, and I just love this cover. It's, I think, from Vintage. Yes, it's a Vintage Classic edition, and I just want to give this. I just want to be done with this. I don't want to be one of those people who read classic and have not read Little Women yet. Like, come on, you can't be that person. So I'm not going to be that person. Not from this year onwards. Lastly, and I have read this book, but I have read it at the time when I was not mature enough to understand it. So I'm going to give it another try. And this is Charlotte Bronte's Jane Eyre. Everybody knows how much I love Wuthering Heights. I've probably filled my entire bookstagram with Wuthering Heights. So this shouldn't come across as, as a shock because yeah, I'm going to read this year. It's Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte. So hopefully I can be done with this too. Yeah, so that is everything that I want to read in my classic category. And the next category is fantasy. I'm so excited for this one. So the first book in fantasy category is this very famous book on Book Talk and Bookstagram. I mean, it was all over the place when it was released, and it was kind of a dark fantasy book, which I have not read yet. I mean, I have not read any book that is categorized as a dark fantasy. So I think this one is going to be my first book. It's The Book of Ezreal by Amber V. Nicole. Um, and yeah, I have no idea what this book is about. Um, Let me just. Where there are gods, there are also monsters. For 1,000 years, the ether world has known peace until now. No idea, going in blind. But yes, this book did make. I have like a lot of fantasy books in my TBR. I don't know when that happened, when I became a fantasy girly. I thought that I would be just Harry Potter girly, but then I read Fourth Wing, and now here I am with a whole fantasy books in my TBR, and I had like difficulty picking this category. I thought it would be with romance, but yeah, I'm still very mad that I do not have enough romance books. Anyway, so this is the first book. The second book is obviously no points for guessing. It's Onyx Storm, and I have not read it yet. By Rebecca Yarros. It's the third book in the Fourth Wing series, and um, I just want to read it. I'm going to give in to the hype at some point, and it's going to be sooner rather than later. I might make a whole reading vlog out of it. We never know. But I've heard that the character arc of a lot of characters, like she did justice to them. Like there was this one character of Rydok. I have said in, I think, many of my videos that I love a character who can find humor in all these grave, grim situations, and Rydok was one of those characters. So I have heard that her his character arc is developed in this book, and also Dane, who was going to be a villain, but then he was kind of a morally gray person, but not in a hot way. So I have also heard that his character improves in this book. So I'm very interested in knowing what's that all about. Other than that, I have managed to like skip or just dodge every spoiler, so I don't know much except for these two, that their character arc is basically developed. That's it. Now, the third book in this category was, I was actually debating over this one, Ignite Me, the third book in the Shatter Me series, or the first one from the whole Powerless saga by Lauren Roberts. The only reason why this one is not in this list, because I have heard that this is like heavily plagiarized from the Hunger Games, so it only felt right to just give Ignite Me this a spot. And honestly, the second one, I think it was Unite Me. I'm not sure if I'm right about that, but I think the second one was Unite Me, and I loved that book. And that was the book where I kind of got the whole hype of Shatter Me. Otherwise, like the first one was not worth it. to be honest. And I like the second one mostly because of Kenji. So I'm a Kenji girl, but it may turn into being a Warren girl soon after this book. I'm hoping to like read the entire series this year, but we'll see about that. At least I'll read this one because this does not have a volume issue. This is just me putting it off for infinity. Yep. So we are going to get into this one this year. Another book which I have been putting off because of the volume. Yep. Even though I loved A Coat of Mist and Fury, A Coat of Wings and Ruins, I mean, A Coat of Mist and Fury was again like a whole. Sarah J. Maas does not believe in editing. Let's just get that straight. Like, she is not the person you can trust on like editing. She does not believe in that. So, A Code of Mist and Fury was like huge. Okay. And even though I love that book, that was a 5-star read for me. And the page numbers were totally justified with whatever was going on. I still could not like make myself read this book because I was intimidated. And yeah, and I have heard that the character of Reason kind of take a dip, like a dip in the arc of his character. He becomes not that cool in the coming series. So I'm a bit upset about that. I don't want to read further, but I'm going to read this book this year. Yes, yes. It's going to happen soon. And the next book and the last book in this category is the book that I have been putting off because I have not finished this series. But I have heard that, first of all, it's a completed series and it's so much better than A Quarter. So I'm going to start the series even though I have not finished A Quarter. Um, I'm going to finish Throne of Glass. Not the entire series, just this book. We'll see about the entire series because I have seen Kingdom of Ash and it's like literally this big. So we don't know where we'll go with matlab, so we don't know where we'll go with this series, but still I'm going to give it a chance and read at least this book. And I've heard that it does not start like Akotar did. It gets good like right off the bat. So I'm interested in knowing that. That was all for my fantasy list. And now we have reached the last category of this video, which is like random finds that I could not put it in any category. So the first one in that is If We Were Villains. It's a dark academic book by ML Rio, and I have read some of it, but then I'm a mood reader, so that should explain to you that I why did I not finish it. I actually loved it. Um, it had this whole Shakespearean vibe going on, and now that I have read two plays of Shakespeare, I think this book is going to make so much more sense. So I'm going to read this one. Um, I was actually hoping to read this author, Donna Tartt's Secret History, but I did not have a physical copy of that book and I cannot buy it until I read some more of my books. So that's why if I had a physical copy instead of this book, it would have been Donna Tartt's, but since I do not, and this entire list, guys, it's strictly based on the books that I have with me as my physical TBR. I might like abandon some of it just to read the new books that I'll get over time. So that's why I'm not making any promises, but we'll see where we go. I'll do a video at the end of this year to keep myself in check. I hope I pass in that video. Anyway, moving on to the next book, I have the Mindfuck series. Again, I have heard so much about it. It's a dark romance book and it's by St. Abbey. Um, I kind of like the vibe of it. I've like read a paragraph of it in this video of mine where I read like the opening lines of this book. You can check that video as well. But the Mindfuck series, yes, this I just do not know. I think the volume was something that intimidated me, and I kind of thought that it's going to be like Haunting Adeline. I had so many problems with that book, so I was not ready to feel like that again. That's why I've been putting it off. That's the only reason, but I think I'm going to do this, and I might make a reaction video of this one. So tell me how you feel about that. It might come as a shocker, but the next book is a Murakami's Norwegian Wood. Not that this book will come as a shocker, but the fact that I have not read Murakami yet. I have not read any work by him, and I have heard that he's kind of a male men manipulator. So I'm very interested in knowing, like, seeing where his writing goes. And I picked this one. I have actually two Murakami with me, and I picked this one because there's a Beatles song of the same name, which is Norwegian Wood, and I love that song. It's my one of my favorite Beatles song ever. So yeah, that's why I picked this book, and I'm going to read a Murakami this year. Yes. The next book is something which I'm terrified to read because yeah, I've just like watched a lot of those reels where people are sobbing and crying and everything. And yeah, I think you have guessed the book. It's A Little Life, of course. And the reason why I have, not read it is, I think, pretty clear. Nobody wants to feel that bad over a book. But then again, I think it's time to read it this year. And um, I was kind of just, when I was, putting this list together, I was kind of thinking to sort of make a reaction video of this one because just I don't know what sadist part in me like calls to that, but I've said this so many times that I'm not someone who is going to cry on camera, so it will be funny to see me read this book and just, yeah, lose my shit over it. The last book in this list is something that I'm very excited to read. Not in this, yeah, in this list actually. And the last book in the category is Coco Meller's Cleopatra and Frankenstein. I know nothing about this book, just that the cover appeals to me, the name, the title of the book appeals to me, and the name of the author appeals to me. So there is no reason to put this off anymore. And so I'm going to read this. That's it. I think, guys, that is it for the video. I cannot believe I have finally managed to like put 25 books together in this list. It's like a miracle for me, totally. But we have succeeded, and yeah, it would be interesting for me to see where I go with this list because I am a mood reader, and the chances of me abandoning the whole thing is like pretty high. But I hope I do not get distracted, and I hope I finish some of these books. If you have read any of these books, you can and you are welcome to tell me the reviews of it. And yeah, we'll see. I have no clue what my next video is going to be, so I cannot give you any spoilers or teasers or whatever. But one thing is for sure, I'll see you in the next one. Until then, happy reading, guys. Bye.